Last week we reached page 3 and we stopped at line 78. All can be done if the God touch is there. We've seen the very beginning of the dawn, a long, lone line of hesitating hue. And then this eye of deity, and the message of light creeping through, the reluctant hush, that dark silence that doesn't want to wake up to light. But that message is calling the adventure of consciousness and joy, and it compels the disillusioned breast of nature to give renewed consent to see and feel. And so there's a thought sown, a sense is born, a memory quivered in the heart of time. It's as if, Aurobindo says, a soul long dead were moved to live. But at the same time, it's faced with that forgetfulness that comes. The mother says sometimes when the soul enters the body, it's like falling down, landing on its head. It falls into unconsciousness. And that oblivion, that forgetfulness had blotted the crowded tablets of the past. Everything that's been written in the history of that being has been wiped out. And everything that was destroyed and dissolved must be rebuilt. And old experience must be labored out once more. So at the same time, there's that feeling of the immense effort that is required for that soul that is moved to live. How much effort it has to make to become really alive again. We're reading on page 3 at line 78. So in that moment of feeling all the effort of waking up again, there comes this message. All can be done if the God touch is there. That makes everything possible. So because of that, I'll read on from there. A hope stole in that hardly dared to be amid the night's forlorn indifference. As if solicited in an alien world with timid and hazardous instinctive grace, orphaned and driven out to seek a home. An errant marvel with no place to live. Into a far-off nook of heaven there came a slow, miraculous gesture's dim appeal. The persistent thrill of a transfiguring touch persuaded the inert black quietude, and beauty and wonder disturbed the fields of God. A wandering hand of pale, enchanted light that glowed along a fading moment's brink, fixed with gold panel and opalescent hinge, a gate of dreams ajar on mystery's verge. One lucent corner, windowing hidden things, forced the world's blind immensity to sight. The darkness failed and slipped like a falling cloak from the reclining body of a god. And then, through the pallid rift that seemed at first hardly enough for a trickle from the suns, outpoured the revelation and the flame. The brief, perpetual sign recurred above. A glamour from unreached transcendences, iridescent with the glory of the unseen, a message from the unknown immortal light, ablaze upon creation's quivering edge. Dawn built her aura of magnificent hues and buried its seed of grandeur in the hours. So this is the next stage in the coming of the dawn. This dawn, which is not simply the coming of a physical day, the rising of a physical sun, it's also an inner dawning, a symbol dawn. So we'll go back to page 3, line 78, line 79. Maybe it's your turn, Rosa? Yes, okay.
A boat strong that hardly dared to be, and if the nights forlorn, indifference.
Yes. A hope stole in. These two words go together. Together they make the verb, to steal in. To steal, of course, it makes us think of the thief coming and taking something away. But it can also mean the way that the thief moves. He comes very quietly and unobtrusively. He doesn't want to be noticed at all. So the dawn comes like that. It comes so gradually that we can't really see how it comes in. First there's the darkness and the beginning of this pale light. So with this promise that all can be done when the God touch is there, a hope begins to enter into this darkness. But that hope hardly dared to exist. It's very timid and shy and unsure of itself in the midst of all this indifference and this feeling of being forlorn, being lost, sad, abandoned. That night is a very hopeless night. It just wants to go back to being completely dark. So in the midst of that forlorn indifference of the night, that little hope hardly dares to exist. But then Aurobindo gives us a very beautiful image of another movement in the coming of the dawn. Slava, you would read? Yes, you know where we are? Line 81. Yes?
As if solicited in an enlightened world with timid and hazardous instinctive grace, Orphaned and driven out to seek a home and errant marvel, dig the place to live into a far-off nook of heaven, their care, a slow, miraculous, gestures, dim appeal.
Yes, this is quite a difficult sentence to understand, to unravel, but fortunately Aurobindo has written a letter about it. So we know that in this first line, as if solicited. Solicit means to beg, to implore. No? So as if something is begging in that world which is strange to it. The subject of this sentence, which tells us who is doing the begging or what is doing the begging, this is the last line of the sentence. A slow, miraculous gestures, dim appeal. There's a gesture of light, as if begging to be attended to be looked after. That gesture has grace, it's very graceful, but it's timid. It has to sum up all its courage in order to make this gesture. Because it's as if this being is an orphan, one without parents, whose parents have died or abandoned it. It's orphaned, and it's been driven out from its native place. It's been sent out. It has to try to find a home. So this is an errant marvel, something beautiful which is wandering, lost. It doesn't have a place to live. So that gesture comes into a far-off nook, a corner of the sky. This gesture, this dim appeal. The light is not very bright, and yet there's something appealing, a beautiful, attractive grace. One can think of what Aurobindo must often have seen on the streets of London when he was there as a young boy and as a teenager. Poor children who had no place to live. And in that city of horse-driven vehicles, cabs and carriages, such a little child lost with nobody to look after it might be sweeping the crossings. Those horses, they leave their mess everywhere, and so the road crossings, some such innocent, beautiful, lost, abandoned child might be sweeping the crossing and putting out its hand and asking for a penny or for some kindness. No? So it's a faint light like that coming into the darkness, but with this innocence, this purity, this appeal. Janaka?
The persistent thrill of a transfiguring touch persuade the inert black quietude, and beauty and wonder dispute the files.
The fields
of God.
Yes. So maybe that little child touches you even, holds onto your coat. And there's something thrilling about that touch. And that thrill persists. This touch brings about a change. That touch persuades this inert black quietude of the night, the indifference, the inertia. And because of that, something more lights up. That miraculous first light of dawn. Beauty and wonder disturbed the fields of God. There's something troubling about that beautiful light. Of course, if you're still wanting to go back to sleep, you don't want to see it, but you can't help it. That light is so persistent. The fields of God, the sky. Narendra?
A wandering hand of pale enchanted light that lolled along a fading moment's brink, fixed with gold panel and opalescent hinge, a gate of dreams ajar on mystery's verge.
So it's as if a pale hand, a hand of pale enchanted light, opens a window or a gate. This gate, it has those miraculous shine of the early dawn light, a gold panel, and opalescent hinge. The hinge is the part that fastens the door, the gate, to its frame. And opalescent. Anybody knows what an opal is? It's a beautiful gemstone with usually, there are sometimes dark colors, but usually very, very pale colors. Many, many different colors in a kind of milky pastel mixture there. So it's as if the gate opens, we can see its golden panel, we can see those lovely opalescent colors. This is a gate of dreams, and that gets fixed ajar. Ajar means a door that is not really closed, but it's not really open. It's swinging on its hinge. And if we have a door that is ajar and a breeze comes through, then the door will bang with a very unpleasant jarring noise. So ajar, it's in that position where it can bang. But here what it indicates is a little bit open, not fully open. It's ajar, and what we can see through that little bit open door is the edge of mystery, a verge. It's an edge or rim. So a little bit more light comes. Andrea, somebody wants to ask anything? Andrea, would you read?
One recent corner, windowing hidden things, forced the world's blind immensity to sight.
You can read the next two lines also.
Darkness failed, Then
So that's enough there, thank you. One lucent corner, one corner where there's light, just one area of the sky. That's a window onto things that are still hidden. But the fact that that window is there, that window of light, means that the world, that world of darkness, that world of blind immensity that wasn't seeing anything, that huge dark universe, is forced to sight. Suddenly we can see. Then the darkness just falls off, slipped, like a falling cloak from the reclining body of a god. We can see that god lying down just above the horizon, glowing with rainbow colors. Someone has revealed to us that this is an image from the Vedas, that there the coming of the dawn is given with this image of the dark cloak falling off the body of the glowing god. Mila?
Then through the pallid rift that seemed at first hardly enough for a taking of the suns from the suns, out poured the revelation and the flame.
Yes. So there's been this pallid rift, this pale opening in the darkness, and it's so small, so narrow, that you would think that only a little trickle of light can come through from the suns beyond, no? But suddenly a lot of light pours through. Out poured the revelation and the flame, all the vividness of sunlight. Mila? Yeah.
The brief perpetual sign recurred above, a glimmer from unreached transcendences, hidden distant in the glory of the unseen. A message from the unknown, immortal light, a blaze upon creation's quivering edge. Down built her aura of magnificent hues, and buried its seed of grandeur in the hours.
Yes. The brief, perpetual sign. It's again one of these examples of Aurobindo putting contradictory words together. Something that's perpetual, it lasts forever, or it's repeated forever. But when it's repeated, it may only stay a short time. He's referring to the dawn. The dawn comes again and again, forever and ever, but it only comes for a brief time. Now it's recurring, it's happening again in the sky above. And the dawn is always a sign. Of course, it's the same sun coming back, but every dawn is different. Dawn is the sign of an ever-growing light. I mean, this is the Vedic significance of the dawn, bringing always a new light. And I mentioned last week or the week before that this has something to do with Savitri's name. That the name of Savitri has to do with the sun before it rises above the horizon. the first light before we can really see the sun above the horizon.
So, Shraddhavan, dawn is called when there is this light coming, not when the sun is out.
The sunrise is when the sun comes up and we can see it, yes. So, but dawn starts before sunrise,
Just when the light is there.
when the light begins to come, yes.
But here is talking about the sun or the light.
This brief perpetual sign, well, this is the arrival of dawn. And so that, I don't see the dawn very often, but I have seen some very memorable dawns in my life. I remember once traveling in North India and waking up in the train in the early morning, and there was such a magical glow. All the colors were absolutely amazing. Not just intense, but delicate, gentle, magical. So here he speaks about a glamour from unreached transcendences. Glamour, this is a word we are familiar with these days in a very down-to-earth context, perhaps. Well, but it's also kind of, it's the attraction of film stars and fashion and a certain way of life. Glamour has a way, a kind of attraction. No? You'll be surprised to know that it actually comes from the same root as grammar. Grammar, the art of putting words together correctly in a sentence so that it has a meaning. It comes from a time before many people knew how to read and write. And when, if you had the power to put words in the right order, it was a kind of spelling, casting a spell, producing an enchantment. So that enchantment is connected with glamour. You know? So there's some magical enchantment which is coming into the sky from unreached transcendences, from realms that are completely beyond the normal human experience. And this glamour that's coming is iridescent. It's shining with all the colors of the rainbow. Like the feathers on a peacock's breast that are shining and shimmering, iridescent, with changing colors. This light that's come is iridescent, glowing like that, with the glory of the unseen. It's a hint of something which is beyond, which is invisible, which cannot be seen. And this glow and this iridescence comes as a message from another kind of light, the unknown, immortal light that is always ablaze, blazing like a powerful fire on the very edge of creation, quivering edge. Flames quiver also, no? That means the borderline between the beyond state, the state beyond space and time, beyond all limitations, and where that joins creation. There's this quivering edge of magic. So that's what dawn is bringing, that message. And for a brief time on the earth, she builds up her aura, her beautiful atmosphere of magnificent hues, intense, gorgeous colors, and she buries a seed of grandeur in the hours. This glory of dawn, it doesn't last long, but it leaves something of its light behind. A seed that will sprout is as if planted in the day, in the coming day, in human time. Anybody would like to ask anything about this passage that we've read?
Light with capital L, it means divinity, basically.
Yes, it is this huge foreboding mind of night. It's this power of darkness. No?
This light is like...
And light is the opposite. Yes, these two are opposed, the night and the light.
Divinity, it was also
This is we can say a cosmic power, yes, universal power. Would you like to read, sir?
Ablaze upon creation's quivering edge, dawn built her aura of magnificent hues, and buried the seed of grandeur in the hours. An instant visitor, the god had shone. On life's thin border, a while the vision stood. And bent over earth's pondering forehead curve.
Yes, let's pause there. So she's buried her seed of grandeur in the hours, and then it's as if we might see the dawn goddess just for an instant. She doesn't stay long. The Godhead, the divinity, dawn, Usha. She shines there in the sky, and she's standing on life's thin border for a while. If we think of the whole globe, most of it is matter, no? And there's only this thin border of life, this little surface border, and then there's these subtler atmospheres. So there she stands on this life's thin border a while and bends over. She's giving a blessing. She bends over this pondering forehead curve of earth, this place where there is consciousness, mental consciousness. That's the curve of the forehead of the earth. If we are watching from out in space, we may see this gorgeous dawn glow above the horizon. Is that Vel Morgan at the back there? Would you read?
Interpreting a recanted beauty and bliss. In colors, hieroglyphs of mystic sense, it wrote the lines of a significant telling of greatness of spiritual dawn. A brilliant code in it with the sky for pale.
Yes. So this vision of dawn, she's interpreting something. She's like I'm trying to explain something of the resonance of these lines to you. She is, through her message, she's telling us about something, about a beauty and a bliss that are hidden, that are very difficult to find. No? And she's interpreting the meaning of that hidden beauty and bliss in color. Hieroglyphs it refers to the images of ancient Egyptian writing, which is a hieratic writing. It wasn't known by everybody. It was a sacred writing known to people who were initiates, who knew how to understand the symbol images. So in the same way, that this color, these are symbolic colors whose meaning can be understood by somebody who has that secret knowledge. All these colors that she's showing have an inner meaning, a mystic sense. And this vision is writing on the sky the lines of a significant myth, a story that has a symbolic meaning. So we remember that in his author's note, Aurobindo has referred to this myth which underlies the legend, the story of Savitri and Shraddhavan, the symbolic story which has a deep, recondite inner meaning. And this part of this meaning is about the greatness of spiritual dawns, not just the physical dawns, but the deeper dawns, the deeper psychological dawns that can happen in our consciousness. So all these colors that she's showing there, he says it's like a code, like a secret language. And it's been penned, it's been written on the sky, using the sky for a page. If we would know how to interpret it, we would learn a great inner knowledge. Samadashan? Almost
that day, the epiphany most disclosed, of which our thoughts and hopes are signal flares. A lonely splendor from the invisible goal almost was flung on the opaque evening.
Yes. So with this dawn, almost that day, it doesn't quite happen, almost is disclosed, revealed, the epiphany. An epiphany is like darshan. It's like a revelation of the divine in a form that we can see. It's a word that comes from Christian iconography, we can say, and refers to the day when the baby Jesus was recognized as a divine being by those three wise men from the East. And it's the first day of the Christian calendar. But the word is a Greek word which means revelation, revelation of the divine. So almost that day, this wonderful revelation was given. The revelation of which our thoughts and hopes are signal flares. If you're afloat on the ocean and you need help, you will send up a flare to let somebody know that you are there and that you need help. Yes. So our thoughts and our hopes are in a way signs, indications of that great epiphany which is to come, that the full revelation of consciousness. Our thoughts and hopes show that there is something like that somewhere. And this splendor of the dawn, he says it's a lonely splendor, it's just happening once in one time, but it's come all the way from that invisible goal which all our thoughts and hopes are aiming for. That revelation, that splendor, almost was flung, was cast on that opaque, inane, that soullessness, that unconsciousness of the empty sky, the dark sky. He used that word opaque before, no? On the first page somewhere. Almost, one felt, opaque, impenetrable. Something that's opaque, you can't see through it. You can't penetrate what is there. So that inane, that means actually soullessness or senselessness without consciousness. That darkness. Some powerful light almost gets flung on it. Gentleman behind, would you like to read? Would you read?
Once more, a track gutter, the vacant walls, infinity sunder, a face of rapturous calm, outer the eternal lids that open heaven, a form from far beatitudes seem to hear.
Thank you. So this happens in a way more or less every day. Once more, this step, the tread of the dawn goddess troubled these empty vastnesses. She's arrived again. And we can see for a moment her face of rapturous calm. It's full of intense ecstasy and yet completely calm. That face of hers seems to be the center of infinity. And she opens her eyes, parted the eternal lids. When she opens her eyes, that opens up all the heavenly worlds. Not only we can see her face, we can see her form that's coming near, approaching from far beatitudes, worlds full of bliss that are so far away from us. Would you read, Mom? Yes, you. Yes.
Ambassadress with eternity unchanged, the omniscient goddess leaned across the breadth that tracked the fated journeying of the stars and saw the spaces ready for her feet.
Yes. So the dawn goddess is an ambassadress. This is the feminine form of an ambassador. An ambassador is a very powerful representative and messenger who India has ambassadors in all the important countries of the world to represent India's interests and to look after people who need help from India. So the thing about an ambassador is that he's sent and he goes backwards and forwards between two places. So the dawn goddess is an ambassador bringing a message. She travels between the realm, the transcendent realm of eternity and infinity, and our world of change, of time and space and change. And Aurobindo says that she's omniscient. She knows, she has all knowledge. And now she's come to the little earth and she's leaning across those vast spaces, all the spaces that wrap, that envelop the journeyings of the stars. Outer space, so vast. And he says the fated journeyings of the stars. It has a double meaning. It means that those journeyings are fixed by destiny. They have to be just like that. But they are also, human beings have always believed that there's a connection between the movements and positions of the stars and our fate, our destiny. So he hints at that here. And she's leaning across these breadths and she sees where she has to move next. She saw the spaces ready for her feet. Yeah.
What was Sri Aurobindo's take on fate? Human fate or fate?
Yes, well, there's a whole book of, no, not a whole book, a whole canto of book 6, a long canto, where that is explained. But I will say that when he first came to Pondicherry, he wrote an essay about astrology. It's not complete, but like all his writings, it does give a more profound look into that topic than we usually get in the newspapers, where we're told our fate for the day, depending on our birth sign. It seems he felt that there is, of course, some universal connection. We're all part of the same universe, and although the stars seem physically so far away from us, it's true that there is a connection. Somehow we've missed out Andras. He was hiding at the back there. Will you read him?
Once she had looked behind for a veiled sun, then thoughtful went to her immortal work.
I have a painting of these lines by ashram artist Priti Ghosh. She's given it to Savitri Bhavan and it's hanging in my office. Perhaps I'll bring it next time so that you can see it. The dawn goddess, half looking behind. For her sun, the sun is following her. The sun is still veiled. We can't see the sun yet. The sunrise hasn't happened. And then, thoughtful, went to her immortal work. She moves on. I think we'll stop there for today. We can read these lines together, going back to line 79 on page 3. A hope stole in that hardly dared to be amid the night's forlorn indifference. As if solicited in an alien world with timid and hazardous instinctive grace, orphaned and driven out to seek a home, an errant marvel with no place to live. Into a far-off nook of heaven there came a slow, miraculous gesture's dim appeal. The persistent thrill of a transfiguring touch persuaded the inert black quietude, and beauty and wonder disturbed the fields of God. A wandering hand of pale enchanted light that glowed along a fading moment's brink, fixed with gold panel and opalescent hinge, a gate of dreams ajar on mystery's verge. One lucent corner, windowing hidden things, forced the world's blind immensity to sight. The darkness failed and slipped like a falling cloak from the reclining body of a god. Then, through the pallid rift that seemed at first hardly enough for a trickle from the sun, outpoured the revelation and the flame. The brief, perpetual sign recurred above. A glamour from unreached transcendences, iridescent with the glory of the unseen. A message from the unknown immortal light ablaze upon creation's quivering edge. Dawn build her aura of magnificent hues, and buried its seed of grandeur in the hours. An instant's visitor, the Godhead shone. On life's thin border, awhile the vision stood, and bent over earth's pondering forehead curve, interpreting a recondite beauty and bliss in colors, hieroglyphs of mystic sense. It wrote the lines of a significant myth, telling of a greatness of spiritual dawns, a brilliant code penned with the sky for page. Almost that day, the epiphany was disclosed, of which our thoughts and hopes are signal flares. A lonely splendor from the invisible goal almost was flung on the opaque inane. Once more a tread perturbed the vacant vasts. Infinity's centre, a face of rapturous calm, parted the eternal lids that open heaven. A form from far beatitudes seemed to near. Ambassadress twixt eternity and change, the omniscient goddess leaned across the breadths that wrap the fated journeyings of the stars, and saw the spaces ready for her feet. Once she half looked behind for her veiled son, then, thoughtful, went to her immortal work.